But, when your manager isn't there, if you're talking to a vendor, you're having a call or you're on the phone with them, you're the boss then, and you need to take on that responsibility and that leadership.
Good morning, good evening, and good day to you. This is Samantha Stiers with CBRE. We've known each other for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, but not very close. We just see each other at events. I am so excited to have you on our first official Emerging Professionals podcast or web series.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So tell us about you.
So thank you. My name is Samantha Stiers. You got that right. I'm a senior real estate manager for CBRE. I actually manage 3 properties in San Francisco, and my career has been spent in Oakland and San Francisco, mostly just, urban areas, high rises and kind of mid rises, all mostly Class A office. That's kind of where my expertise lies. And yeah, I've been we know each other through BOMA in the East Bay, BOMA Oakland East Bay, which I've been involved in, for probably a decade or something now. And I've been on the board of directors for BOMA Oakland East Bay for, this is my 3rd or 4th year, actually. I think I'm nearing the end of my 2nd term. And I also represent BOMA Oakland East Bay on the CREATE board, so the alliance of real estate associations that come together and focus on educating, our future workforce. And then I also sat on, Community Benefit District Board in Oakland as well, the Uptown CBD, which was an interesting, fun experience. I learned a lot from that board about just kind of how things work and the mechanics of a board. It was really interesting. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I started in this career in 2007, so like 14 years now.
That's crazy.
In Oakland.
13 years. I keep forgetting that we're in 2021 because I feel like 2020 just flew by. It did. Now that I think about it, but when you're in the thick of things, it definitely felt like it was dragging on forever. So how did you get into property management? How did that whole thing
So I think it's a tale as old as time, sort of on accident. I went to a small liberal arts college in the Bay Area, St. Mary's, which is in the East Bay. And right out of college, I just needed a job so I didn't have to move to Oregon where my parents had moved after I left home. And I started working at a 24-hour fitness. And within like a year, I was managing it. And then I kept getting like bigger gyms and was just, doing that and looking for a career as opposed to, a job, but trying to get some experience. And I reached out to, or she reached out to me, maybe a friend from college was working at what was then CAC Real Estate Management Company. And we actually eventually got purchased by CBRE. She got me an interview in downtown Oakland, and I've been there ever since.
Wow.
It's been a long time since I've had to interview for a job or anything. I don't know if that makes me one of the lucky ones or not, but here I am.
I think it's lucky because that kind of obviously you have that longevity there, and interviews, you're going to get interviews throughout your entire life, whether that's a client or maybe a new board position or anything like that. So at least you have some stability, which is really good. So you said that are you in any other associations currently other than BOMA Oakland East Bay?
I just BOMA San Francisco.
Okay, because that would create. So for the people that don't know, there is the CREATE, which you've kind of mentioned, but that merges BOMA San Francisco, BOMA Oakland East Bay, and then they usually have a joint gala every year. And
yeah, it also includes IREM and some other, real estate associations. And there's kind of representatives from all of them on that board. And, we all have the same mission of not having people fall into this on accident and having them come to it on purpose.
Exactly.
So getting more out to colleges and getting some sort of, training on at least what we do, hey, this exists. And have you ever wondered, how these places keep running and we're the people that do it. And I've been lucky enough to benefit from that program. I actually just hired an entry-level position this year, and I hired someone from the CREATE program. So I know I'm not the only one. And it's been a pretty good success so far.
How would you, for me, obviously, how would anybody, but also me, get involved into the CREATE? Because I feel like that aligns with what I'm trying to do, obviously. And I think that I can kind of utilize it to pivot in between. And
absolutely. So right now we're affiliated, I think, just with 2 colleges, create.org if you want more information. And right now, we're just at those 2 schools, and there's kind of a built-in program that people can register, students can register for. And then it's a series of classes right now, obviously virtual, where they use us, real estate professionals to teach these classes. But it's a pretty well-developed, structured program at this point. And you do get kind of a certificate or graduation from it. And then we've also just started to create, no pun intended, a sort of next step, like CREATE 2.0 for those who have gone through the CREATE program and want a little bit more, or maybe still are in school and are not ready to have a full-time job, but want to kind of keep involved with it and keep learning about it. And so, so a lot of it has just been developing the program, working with the educators on making sure that this is a real thing, real classes, and that there's structure and all of that. And we have actually heard from other markets who are interested in kind of adapting or adopting our program. And so I think our long-term goal is to spread it around, maybe in Texas. And so I think that's where we're at now. We've had, we probably get, I think it's maybe 20 or so per term. Students that come through, and I didn't really prep on statistics, but again, if you create.org, plenty of information. We also started a job posting board on there as well for folks looking for kind of entry level employees. So that's great. Awesome. And then hopefully those people then come up and fill in sort of these middle areas of assistant managers and new managers, and it's really planning for the future.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that is the reason why I thought it was so important to, yes, I want to introduce and engage with the commercial real estate while I'm still in Texas. And this is kind of my excuse to do that. But I do know that there is such a huge gap in succession planning, which we've talked about offline.
They do, I think, a mentorship program. There's also internships available. And so they're always looking for folks to host interns, which is a good way to kind of get involved and also give them money. They need money. It's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And, we have to kind of, pay for materials and, right now with all of our virtual stuff, pay for making videos. We've done, usually there's a building tour. So we had to do one over, virtually and produce a video, which is, a lot as someone who kind of does a little bit of this. So, so we're always looking for contributions for things like that. And we typically, our fundraising was centered around a gala, which you mentioned. And so, obviously we're pivoting like everybody else and really trying to reconfigure how we make, pushes for donations and collect those and things like that.
Did you learn anything in particular or something that you're surprised that you learned in the last year?
I think the biggest challenge, there's a lot that I already knew about myself that just I'm constantly being reminded of, which is that I get energy from the presence of other people. And I often have, in property management, a lot of the time if you're in an on-site office, there's only 2 or 3 of you. Sometimes you're by yourself. And I knew before I was ever a manager that I could never be by myself because I'm just not productive that way. And so when my first job as a manager, I insisted on having a part-time administrator just at least one day a week to invigorate me. So I've always known this about myself. I always tell, for a while, there were two of us in the office, myself and my associate manager. And every time she went on vacation, when she came back, I was like, well, I barely got by without you. So, that has been my biggest challenge personally, as far as my sort of work and productivity. And then kind of the next thing is really managing people. And I think there are just so many cues we get from people just by seeing them and watching them and being in their presence that we don't get now.
Yeah.
I ended up taking a course last year on global collaboration because I have a new client that's in Japan, and I just thought it would be helpful for that. And then it turned out to be very helpful for managing teams virtually, and gave me all kinds of really good tips. And one of those that kind of stood out is like, when you're in the office all together, everyone knows who the boss is, they know who's in charge, and they come in, and there's that sort of built-in structure for anyone that comes in your office and the way that you interact with each other. But since the leader is never in the room with you anymore, and sometimes in the virtual room with you, but not always, people have to interact without you one-on-one. That really, when you're doing that, someone needs to take the lead. Mm-hmm. So for people who are coming up, like, real estate administrators or assistant managers, whatever your company calls all those things, we all have our different titles. But, when your manager isn't there, if you're talking to a vendor, you're having a call or you're on the phone with them, you're the boss then, and you need to take on that responsibility and that leadership. Yeah. So I think it's been kind of a learning opportunity, sort of, and maybe a confidence building opportunity for folks to just be able to, take charge and be their own guide and leader during this time. But sometimes people need permission. So I was like, I should make sure I've given them permission. They feel comfortable doing that because it's really necessary. Yeah.
I feel like that is so important as you're going up the ranks, which you have, and then learning to empower other people and also just kind of let them grow into their own being
with support, really.
I
think exactly. The last thing you want is to set someone up for failure. So because if they fail, you all fail, right? I know the famous phrase is that SHIT rolls downhill, but really we all know it rolls uphill. So as a manager, you always want your team to succeed because that means you're succeeding. And so, I always, that was the thing, is it's like, if you're really uncomfortable, have me be part of it, but you have the authority, like in this environment, take the lead where you need to. And, if you're in a virtual room with someone or having a conversation, like you're in charge. So you have that backing and that support from me. So I think it's been helpful in the kind of the latter part of this.
What, other than obviously the given, the people and face-to-face interaction, what do you miss like the most?
Oh God. I
feel like has been a high here, like eating in a restaurant.
Almost just like knowing that I can go anywhere I want to is really the underlying theme in all of it. I do miss restaurants, but for me, going to restaurants is a social thing. So it's really tied to the people. I miss enjoying travel. We were talking earlier about being on an airplane and all of that, and being able to kind of enjoy the parts of that are enjoyable, which is not, ever all of it. So, so, all of that. And also just kind of, I think, having things to look forward to. I think what's been kind of part of the torture of all of this is, we kind of have a little hope, or we think we know the timeline, especially when it first started. It's like we kind of thought we knew, and then we didn't know, and it kept getting pushed back, and it keeps getting pushed back. And I think that's a big part of it, is that you can't plan anything even 6 months out because you just don't know. So there's not a lot that's tangible that you can look forward to. So I think that's probably what most people, I know. I hate to be so depressing.
No, I mean,
I look forward to someday. We just don't know specifically what day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm literally going through that right now because I was supposed to get married in May, and we were going to do a wedding out in the Bay Area, and then obviously COVID happened, and then my dad, and then I just ended up going to Texas, and so that's why I'm here. But there's still the wedding date that we're trying to figure out, and so literally like today we kind of sort of figured out like where we are going to do it, but that also is like impeding on the people that we have no idea who is actually going to be able to show up. Like, we know we're going to have a great time, and then whoever else can come, and fingers crossed that they can. But it is such a weird time because, like, okay, we were going to do a big wedding, but what's the point of paying all that money and then like not? So I've gone like back and forth so many times, and then now we're just gonna go get brunch and go on a party boat and then call it a day.
I do not envy the process that you had to go to change your expectations so much and to change your outlook on it. But it sounds like that you're trying to get excited about it and that you're getting it, which is admirable to say the least. I definitely feel lucky that I didn't miss out on any huge milestones. Like, I feel bad, so bad for all of, even the teenagers graduating from high school completely all of the social elements of their senior year, the freshmen in college that missed kind of getting to know people and meeting people and all of that. So and people like you that had to change such a big event, and then it's been so long that you're really going to have to change your whole expectation of what it was going to be. It's just, but you'll make it through. And you know what? It'll be a story. It'll be a really good story to tell what you had to go through. It comes up a lot, especially as I kind of keep moving forward and upward in my career. I think a lot about the fact that I started this career in 2007, and there was a huge crash in 2008. And, right around then, I basically was lucky to have not been laid off just because I was the low person on the totem pole. And I think, and again, now I'm kind of on the cusp of sort of growing more, and we're now in this other sort of recession. I'm like, come on, guys, when can I get a break here? But I think that, it speaks to property management that, I did start in a recession, and I'm here, and I'm going to keep moving forward and upward during this recession. And, this career is a really stable one. And no matter what's happening in the market, the stock market, or the real estate market, they still need people making sure that these buildings, aren't filling up with water or, all that stuff, and all the financials still exist. It's, they need us more now really than they do during good times. So we're in a lucky spot, I think.
And just reiterating, that's the reason why we need to spread the word of how welcoming and needed commercial real estate is. So it's perfect.
And during uptime, it's interesting because during uptimes, I think, being a broker and doing all of that can be sort of, sexy and cool. And then, when it's not good, that's not very cool.
Yeah.
And it's, to a certain point in your life where you want some stability and things like that, like this is very reliable. There's tons of room for growth, and, plenty of very successful people that do property management and have really gone places.
CBRE in general has so many different positions. Like, obviously they have the property management, but they do also have the broker side and so much more. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, but
a lot that I don't even know, to be honest.
Don't they do maintenance too? or something?
Yes, so we have engineers. We have a technical services that falls under the property management line of business. But yes, we do directly employ some engineers, also landscaping and all kinds of lines of business beyond property management. We do have a arm that kind of does facilities. It's Global Workplace Services. Mm-hmm. So a lot of companies, you may have worked with them, a lot of companies hire CBRE Global Workplace Services to, provide facility services, and they'll just embed with the company and, work out of their office and manage their facilities. So I know like Microsoft is a big client, Google, places like that take us in and have us do it for them. So sometimes we're working with ourselves. Like the facilities for the tenant is CBRE, GWS, and then we're managing the building and we have to kind of work together. So it's pretty cool.
Would you guys still have to bid out some of the work, or is it just like if you can use CBRE, just use it?
No, we still bid it because our fiduciary responsibility is to the client. Building, in our case, we're third-party management. So the client really hires us, and the client is usually the building owner, either directly or they're like an asset management company that manages a fund that owns the building, kind of thing. Gets a little complex. But so essentially, we're working for the building owner, and we need to get them the best price, the best service, and we have to do our due diligence to do that. So regardless of what, internal services we provide, we always bid, and we obviously try to include our services as one of the bidders. We definitely don't always pick CBRE. It also just depends on the market, We don't always have, a ton of engineers available in every market, or a ton of, landscaping, whatever the services are. It's not quite as robust as our property management, team. So it also kind of just depends on the market and what's available as well.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved with BOMA?
So when I started in my career in property management, I started, at the time it was called a tenant coordinator, and I worked in an office of 3 people. So there was an assistant manager and a manager there at the time. And they're amazing women, and they are still in the business and also doing really well. And they were not participators. and still aren't really. And they actually, they're like, you don't really have to do this stuff. You really should do it. We don't do it. So you should do it. You should be the one to go.
I've heard that
we have money for lunches. Like, you should just go.
Yeah.
So I started going to stuff, and, we would, I would go and I would come back and we would talk about it, and they would kind of live vicariously through me. And that's how I started. And really, I was sort of casually involved because, again, they didn't really encourage it. They just were like, there's this thing you should maybe do. And they didn't discourage me, but anyway, it was pretty funny. So several years later, as I started kind of growing to newer roles, and I think I was maybe a manager at the time, I connected, maybe at a luncheon or something, or maybe, I can't remember, maybe as a coworker, but basically they were like, our committee chair isn't going to do it anymore. We need a committee chair. And I was like, well, we'll see, I guess. And so I show up to the committee, and literally that day, that one first meeting, they're like, okay, you're the chair now. And I was like, excuse me. And they said, it's okay. There's people to support you. You're not on your own, but we just need somebody to do it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So then I started doing it. There I was. And 2 years later, I was still doing it. And then a few years later, I was on the board. So, and when I got on the board, a lot of the conversation was, we really shouldn't throw people into these things.
Again, you get those cards and you deal with them accordingly, and you're doing an amazing job. So there's that.
And once I got there, we are trying really hard to build sort of the infrastructure so that people, don't get thrown into these things and feel unprepared. But also, even with that, people are a lot of the time hesitant. We had I'm the board liaison for the stakeholder engagement work group. We're trying to have 2 co-chairs and then like a coordinator or sort of like secretary kind of thing, preferably like an emerging professional or someone that's kind of new to kind of warm them up to what the leadership is like. And then hopefully they go into a chair role. That happened with stakeholder engagement. It was great. But even then, the coordinator was a little hesitant. I was like, you've basically been, you're not going to be on your own. We're here. You've been in every meeting. You've been doing the agenda. Like, you are already doing it. You already know what you're doing. And you're like, oh, okay. And now she's doing it. She's doing a great job. Our next, task is to get somebody to backfill her so that, in a year or 2, when she's over it, we can kind of bring that person, because we don't want to burn people out. I took those lessons from my first experience and we've kind of all applied them. And I think it's working for us. So it's good. But yeah, you got to build your social media army, I think there's a lot of us, especially us, older millennials, I think is my category, that, it's been beat into us our whole lives. Keep your work life and your personal life separate, especially on social media. Like, everything should be private. That's personal. Keep it all separate. Don't you don't want even your employer to see you holding a cocktail. Like, that's been what we've been taught our entire lives. And, cell phones were literally like invented and put into our hands in college for me. So it's really hard for us to break that mentality, I think. So I think there's an opportunity there for sort of like a change in the industry and some kind of, presentations and things like that to start to break that habit. And
for sure. And even if so that's what we're planning on doing in March. We're going to be doing a full like marketing workshop. We might do a couple, just kind of depending on how it works out, and I'll be heading that. And I go through all the demographics and statistics of actual social media stats, but then also just reminding everybody that a personal brand isn't like bragging about yourself. You need one for succession planning for not only your company, but also maybe where you're going to end up, because people move so much and sometimes it's by choice, sometimes it just happens. But I think it's so important. So like, there's a lot of people that want to keep their personal and professional separate, but you can also have multiple Instagram accounts and just like keep both of those in line with your quote unquote niches, which is also extremely important to build your brand. And that's something that like we are going to be talking about a lot. So I'm excited.
I really look forward to it because I need those lessons really bad. And I think that's going to be really good. And I think too that, I've been talking to my boss a lot recently about how we think about personal branding and that, we kind of see things loosening up a little bit, in real estate. And it used to be that we still were wearing suits to, even meet with your boss or, especially your boss's boss or to any meeting. And, we're kind of talking about, okay, now we've seen everybody's homes. We've been in your home. Our managing director wears hoodies on the market calls, and she is the most polished professional person I've known in my life personally. And I think after the initial shock of, oh my gosh, there's no scarf and she's wearing a zip up hoodie, holy moly. And now we're here almost a year later, it's still happening. And we're all very, kind of comfortable with that. And obviously we're not going to be able to wear tie-dye sweatsuits. But, maybe we're wearing jeans on more than just Friday now. So I think it kind of ties to, you know, the personal brand and getting more comfortable with your personal brand, that like you're going to feel, hopefully there's going to be opportunity to feel less like you're putting on a separate face, and more that your own style come through, and that you have the opportunity to do that. So I'm looking forward to kind of what's going to happen in the next year with all of that, and having the tools from you guys on what to do with it.
Super excited. Yeah, no, and something else that like follows suit with that is obviously there's demographic bases. So like the BOMA Oakland East Bay was always very different than the BOMA SAC, like just by what you're wearing there as well. But I also feel like a lot of us were kind of scared to start doing personal branding because they have this thought in their head that maybe their boss will have the thought like, oh, she's looking for another job, that's why she's doing it. Or not. You could just like market yourself so you can make sure that you get more business, you know, and that's something you need to work on.
There is this thing that people are uncomfortable with other people's confidence.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's not just work, and it's a bad thing, and we should move away from it. A lot of people, you know, other women and men are uncomfortable with, you know, people who have a lot of confidence and drive and ambition. And hopefully, I think it should be everyone's goal to find a mentor, hopefully your direct supervisor even, but somebody that has a lot of experience in what you're doing that is not uncomfortable with those things and can kind of encourage you and guide you and support that.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting there. We're for sure getting there. Obviously not everybody's as lucky, but
I know, but it's whole. You know that when you're about your personal brand and you're coming up with these things, and if it crosses your mind that, gosh, my boss might be uncomfortable with this, then oh gosh, you know, like you can't really necessarily change your boss, but you know, find a way to manage your manager into kind of believing in you and that, and find other leaders that are better suited to your sensibilities too, that can support you.
Do you have any thing that you would want to share about like CBRE openings, maybe board openings, maybe, or some either?
You know, so yeah, sure. I actually know off the top of my head, there is a open position for a real estate manager. I think this is the kind of the level that we're having a hard time with, because, you know, we haven't been working in the last decade on building up people and getting them in at the ground floor and working their way up. So we do have an opening in the East Bay for a manager, a portfolio. I think that it's kind of a bigger team, and you're working with for a GM that's out of Dublin. And so it's kind of a good opportunity. You know, we don't have a ton that's kind of far out in the East Bay where you could maybe have a reverse commute or, you know, be close to home. So that's out there, and it's really exciting. I think I posted it on my LinkedIn actually, and I posted the hiring manager's email. So if people want to go there, I'm there, and that post is there. And then with BOMA, we're always looking for, you know, volunteers is really what every, you know, person who's involved in BOMA, it's a volunteer organization. And without our volunteers like you and me, it doesn't exist, and it doesn't kind of move forward. So we just need people. And we have a leadership academy that was established a couple years ago. It's really cool.
Yes,
basically, I love it. They do kind of an introduction into BOMA and the structure of BOMA Oakland East Bay, of BOMA Cal, of BOMA International, so that people just kind of get an understanding of the organization. And then from there, there's just a lot of education on being a leader that you can apply to BOMA involvement, but also to your career. They do kind of a work styles seminar where you can kind of learn about yourself and about how to like work with other people, knowing who you are. and how to identify who your coworkers and your boss and everyone, what their style might be and how you can better work with them. And so there's just tons of opportunity there, obviously opportunity to meet other people in the industry. It's for every level. There are people like my, first teammates in 2007 that never really got involved that could have used this as like a way to at least understand like what's going on and what we do. And then from there, our hope is that members of the Leadership Academy, there is a graduation and that they then, would volunteer to participate in a work group. And then eventually future board members is really the hope. So the Leadership Academy is currently taking applications, I guess. And we had a group last year and then the pandemic happened and we just couldn't quite pivot quickly enough to really keep it going. But they've spent the last few months kind of getting ready for this year, knowing that a lot of it was going to have to be virtual again, have put together a nice program. So anybody that is looking to learn more about BOMA and is looking for, leadership training and to be kind of involved on a sort of a manageable level too. Kind of a lucky to do it, honestly, because you don't have to find a way to get to downtown Oakland to go to the meetings in person. It's all online. So especially for emerging professionals who maybe can't, if they're working in the office and normally wouldn't be able to get away from their desk long enough, you don't have to leave your desk for this. So it's a really good year to do it. So Andrew Gardner with Peacock Construction is kind of taking the lead, but I'm happy to direct people as well. So I don't know if you can throw my email up on this post, I guess. And or they can reach out to you. You're involved in BOMA and you can direct through me or something. But that's a really good opportunity. And then board elections, or every year there's always somebody rolling over the way that it's all timed out. So there's always positions on the board available, at least one for a principal member and for associates as well. And those happen in the fall. So just kind of keep a lookout for that. And then one more thing. Next week is our annual awards, GALA awards event, where the BOMA Member of the Year award gets handed out and any TOBY participants and winners get recognized. So that's on the 11th of February. So people, who are involved in BOMA that might be watching this should register. And when we get closer to the board nominations being open, let me know and we can kind of maybe put something up on your newsletter. I think sometimes, or a lot of the time, we get sort of half completed applications and things like that. And like I said earlier, it's a volunteer association, it's a volunteer board, and we need people who are being thoughtful about it and really want to do it and can show that they want to do it, because, we don't want anyone that's not going to give their ideas and not going to give their time. So I would love the opportunity to just encourage people to apply and to just emphasize that they should complete the whole application and know that we get multiple and we really read them, and there's a whole committee and the process is very transparent. And it would be great to get some new blood. Every year is what we need, new blood.
So I mentioned it previously as well, as that I would love to have you on multiple times, and so we can do that. Maybe we could even go through the application process, and then whenever we can see each other in person, I would love to actually videotape a lot of some of our events and then maybe incorporate that. So again, more exposure for our industry is just what my goal is, and connecting with people. So I'm almost done. I'm not 100% done, but I'm starting to add what People in CRE is and what the vision is. And I'm really excited and so thankful for you to jump on board. Yay. Thank you, Samantha, for joining.
Thank you. This was so fun.